Hi guys, and welcome back to Subtractive Synthesis 101 with Sonic Academy. In this video we're going to take a look at the filter section of the synth, and what a filter does is it removes a portion of the signal sent from the oscillators. So in effect this is the subtractive part of subtractive synthesis. Now there are two main controls that we need to look at, and these are the most important controls, and that is the cutoff, which is here, and the resonance. We'll take a look at those in a bit more detail in a second. We're going to take a look at three main filter types, which is low pass, high pass and band pass. And the reason we're going to look at those is they're the most popular, the most common filter types that you'll use. A lot of synths nowadays, they have dozens and dozens of different filter types, but these three are going to be common to almost every synth that you have a look at, so we'll stick with those for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to using Serum, because Serum again gives you a visual feedback. Now if you're used to using EQ plugins within your DAW, you're probably familiar with what a low pass and a high pass is already. So I've got a low pass selected in Serum. If you have a look at the GUI here, as I take the cutoff value down, the filter starts cutting out portions of the signal, and the area shaded in blue is what's being cut out here. So it's the high end frequencies. And it's the same with a high pass. Let's switch over to a high pass. And it's the same bit in reverse. We're cutting out the low portions of the frequency spectrum here. So we use the cutoff to set the point at which the filter cuts out frequencies. And then we'll take a quick look at the band pass as well. Where are you? Here we are. And a band pass is effectively both filters at the same time. So you're cutting out low and high portions of the frequency spectrum. And band refers to the band here, which the filter allows frequencies to pass through. And again, you can use the cutoff to increase or decrease the level at which the filter is working. Now let's switch back to a low pass. Now one thing you might notice is filter types have a number next to them fairly often. Now in the case of Serum, you've got 6, 12, 18 or 24. And let's switch back to Anna for a second. And Anna does it slightly differently. Click. What Anna does is it gives you a choice of 2 or 4 pole filters. So here you've got 2 or 4, and in Serum you've got 6, 18, what was it, 6, 12, 18, 24. And what this means is, let me switch over to a little diagram here, a 1 pole filter refers to 6 decibels of gain reduction per octave of frequency range. And the same with a 2 pole filter is 12, 3 pole is 18, and a 4 pole filter is 24 decibels per octave. Now what that means is, let's go back the other way, if you take a look at the filter slope in Serum, let's just move this down, this angle here, this slope, is referring to each increase of frequency per octave, we're losing 6 decibels of gain or volume. Now if I choose a steeper slope, let's go up to 24, the maximum, each frequency octave here, this way, you're losing 24 decibels of volume. So it's a much, much steeper slope. And you can hear this in action. Let's go back to a 6. This is a much shallower filter. And let's play. Let's just check we're playing Serum. Yes, we are. Right, I'm just choosing a simple saw wave in Serum. And hear what happens as I reduce the cutoff using a low pass filter. So what you can hear is you can hear the high frequency being cut out. And if I switch to a 24 decibel per octave filter, and Anna would call this a 4 pole. If you go back to, where's my diagram? Other way. A 4 pole filter is 24 decibels per octave. So if we switch to a steeper slope, you should hear a much more pronounced effect on the sound. So let's listen to that. So if you think about it, a 6 or a shallower slope, it's almost like just turning the volume down. It's a much more subtle effect on the sound. Whereas a steeper slope, you can actually hear it more of a filter effect. Let's just listen to that again. So that's quite a common filter sound, whereas the 6 decibel per octave is slightly more subtle. So the other control that's important on a filter is this control here, which is resonance. And what the resonance does is the level at which you set the cutoff, so it would be around here. Oh, I don't want to do that. It would be around here. If you increase the resonance, what it does is it accentuates the frequency at that point. At the point the cutoff is set to, it's going to increase or accentuate the frequency. And if you listen to this as I sweep it, you can hear that. It's a very pronounced effect. It's a very common effect. Let's listen to that on a 24 decibel per octave filter as well. So it's a much more nasally effect. Let's just reduce it down a bit. And it's the same with high pass filters as well. So let's just choose a high pass, turn the resonance all the way down. The cutoff works the opposite way on a high pass filter because you're cutting out the low rather than the high end. So you have to bring it down for no filtering at all. And you can hear what that does to the sound. So if we listen to a steeper high pass filter, it's going to be more pronounced again, the same way as a low pass was. So let's listen to this. It sounds much more filtered. Now if we increase the resonance, you're going to hear a similar effect to a low pass filter. It's going to be pronounced around the cutoff point. So let's just listen to that. You can hear that nasally character coming in again. Okay, now those are the two main controls that you'll use most of the time. Serum has a pan control on the filter, which is quite unusual, so we're not going to go into that. Something a lot of synths do have though is drive. I know Silent has it. Anna has it built into the filters already. We'll take a look at that in a second. But what drive does is it pushes the signal into the filter. So as I increase the drive, you can see the level increasing in the filter. So what that's doing is it's kind of adding distortion or saturation. Going into the red there, so I'm not going to do that too much. And if we take a look at Anna, you can actually choose filters with saturation or drive and distortion built in already. So instead of having a separate control for it, Anna has that algorithm built into the filters themselves. Okay, the next control that's fairly common, although each synth is going to do this in a different way, is if you take a look at here, we've got cutoff and resonance like we did in Serum, is envelope. And what this control here does is it tells the synth how much you want the filter envelope. This is modulation, which we're going to go into in the next video. Anna's got this control on the filter itself, and some synths do. Other synths you'll have to do this in the modulation matrix. But this control here, if you push the control up, the filter envelope is going to affect the filter in a positive way, and if you push the control down, it's going to control it in a negative way. But that's something we're going to take a look at when we start doing sound design later on. The next control is key tracking. Now what key tracking does is quite useful. If I choose, let's say I choose a 4-pole filter here. What have we got? Yeah, let's just choose Anna here. So, hang on, let me choose a 2-pole instead. So you can hear the filter working here. Now, if I have the cutoff set to about 50% and I start playing higher notes, you can hear the higher notes are heavily filtered already because the cutoff is cutting out the high end. And what key tracking does is if you push key tracking up, it allows more high-end frequency through on the higher notes you play. So if you listen to this as I play a high note, but the low notes are still filtered as well. So it allows more of the high-end frequency through. If you don't want all your high notes automatically filtered out because of the cutoff level that you set, this is the control you use to do that. Quite often you'll have it set down to 0. Quite often you won't use it, but it's there if you do need to use it. The final control we've got here is velocity, and again this is something not all synths have. A lot of synths you'll have to use the modulation matrix to assign this because this is a modulation thing. But what velocity does is if you increase the velocity amount here, it will open up the filter more the harder you play a note. And let's see if I can illustrate that here. So I'm playing the note at different levels of velocity here, and you can hear the filter opening and closing. So the softer I play the note, the lower the cutoff's going to be. So this is a softly played note, and then I'll play that note hard. So you can hear the change in tone there. That's actually very useful if you play the keyboard yourself and you want to play an instrument rather than just use the sequencer. That's a very expressive way to use modulation. Now, one other control that Anna has is you've got a combined cutoff and resonance, and this controls both filters at the same time. The only other synth I can think of that does that is Silent, and it's quite common for people to use that, but not many other synths will have it. So they're the basic controls. Oh, go away. They're the basic controls for filters. A rough idea of what each filter does and how it sounds. And what we'll do in the next video is we'll take a look at modulation and how you can start using modulation, which, if you remember, is just like automation built into your synth, and how we can start to use that to shape the sound a bit more. So I'll see you then.